Do you like Ben 10? Then press the like button. Rada, my brothers and sisters by God. This is your brother in Christ, Abstraction Itzel, here with another video. In this video, I'll be reviewing the first of the Ben 10 Reboot Season 5 specials, Ben 10,010. In sum, I'm pretty happy with how the movie turned out. After Ben 10 vs. the Universe dropped, I had high expectations for the Ben 10 reboot going forward, and this movie certainly met my expectations in more ways than one. Here I go with the review. The beginning of the movie was pretty easy to follow, which is important because it takes place 30 years into the future. It could have been more confusing, but they made it pretty simple, so I applaud them for that. However, one thing I want to point out is the Zurge attacked the entire world at the beginning of the movie. Yet, the only country remotely capable of fighting against the Zurge is the United States, which means, even in the future, America is still the greatest country in the world. America! Frick! Yeah! All of the Zurge end up coming to the United States because that's where Ben is, and they were there to find Ben's Zurge DNA. Ben 10,000 is also a literal man-child at the beginning of the movie. He's got his own little place in a junkyard where he lives without showering and has pretend friends because he doesn't have any real ones, and hasn't used his Omnitrix in so long that it malfunctions when he does try to use it. He's also very hostile, just like his 10-year-old self, thinking people can't change, and he and Gwen have their own little grudge against each other. But they end up working together to stop the Zurge. Here's what I don't get. Why are almost all of the people working for Gwen villains from when she was 10? I mean, I can see the Twain twins, the Bug Brothers, and Hex becoming good guys. But Zombozo? Smythe? Animo? I don't know. I'm not buying it. I mean, doesn't the fact that Gwen herself doesn't trust Zombozo to not hypnotize everyone raise a red flag? Like, if you're the president, you should be able to trust the people who work for you, right? Zombozo was always greedy, and I feel like he isn't actually a good guy, and that he could easily turn on President Gwen, or President Tennyson, whatever you want to call him. And Smythe? He lived such a sad life, I don't know how he got anywhere. Maybe he just got reality into his thick skull and realized the world isn't going to downgrade itself, so he upgraded himself instead. And then again, 30 years is a long time. It's not like he can live in the 1600s forever. But I still never thought he'd be a good guy. And Animo? I thought this dude was into turning people into mutants. Now he's an actual scientist? Man, a lot can happen in 30 years. And we have no other new characters. I mean, there are still normal people working for President Tennyson, but they aren't really emphasized. It's just weird how almost all the important people working for Gwen happen to be old villains. But then again, it is explained that Ben quit heroing after he got Grandpa Max killed, so I get it. These might just be some of the few people that Gwen had connections with. But you'd think she'd have some more connections if she's the president. Anyway, the Zurge are really inconsistent in size. Not that it matters much, but sometimes the Zurge are about the size of 10-year-old Gwen's torso, and other times they're as small as adult Gwen's eyeball. Perhaps they can change size. That's the only thing that could explain it, and that would kind of make sense since they all combine to get bigger anyway. We also learned that Ben somehow caused Kevin to get stuck as his version of Humongosaur, known as Humongoraptor, and we never find out how this happened, but Ben has no sympathy for this at all. Literal man-child. But anyway, Max is dead, and he got his conscience uploaded to artificial intelligence, and he is as good as new, except you can't touch him. Ben 10,000 initially goes into the past to take the Omnitrix from his past self, to stop the Zurge from getting signaled from Ben's Omnitrix. But 10-year-old Ben refuses to let his future self take the watch, so his future self takes him to the future instead. And after a hard battle, they did successfully destroy the Zurge and save the day, and Ben 10,000 became a hero once again out of retirement. I'm not going to get too into the story because I'll probably save that for a video in the future. Pun not intended, but we did get to see Ben 10,000 turn into Spider Monkey with such little action, Buzz Shock with some action, Forearms with some action, Heat Blast with some action, and Surge with a lot of action. We also saw young Ben turn into Surge with a lot of action too. It was nice seeing Spider Monkey again, but it would have been cool to see him at least shoot a web or two. I mean, the entire scene was him just trying to beat Hex, but ending up beating himself. Hex didn't even lay a finger on him, and Spider Monkey still lost. The laziness got to him. Also, this version of Ben 10,000 doesn't have master control, so he still turns into the wrong alien at times, and can't seem to switch between aliens either. Seeing Buzzshock was cool, and Tara did a good job voicing him. At least Ben 10,000 got into the fighting groove when he was Buzzshock. Forearms looked cool. His design combines the original series Ben 10,000 Forearms design and the 16-year-old Forearms design from Omniverse and mashed them together. And I like his design overall. He looks buffer than 10-year-old Forearms and also has a mustache. Can't go wrong with that. I really like Ben 10,000's Heat Blast too. I'm glad they brought back the shoulder flames. Those were my favorite part of original series Ben 10,000 Heat Blast, and seeing them again after so long was so refreshing. Ben 10,000's version of Surge was gray, while 10-year-old Ben's Surge was purple like the other Surge, and this is probably because of Ben 10,000's Omnitrix being different. One scene I really enjoyed was the scene with Ben and Gwen in the presents. It was a lighter tone than the rest of the movie, and it allowed some time for the movie to not be so dark and dreaded, and some parts of this scene actually made me laugh. It was also really nostalgic. Seeing Ben and Gwen playing in the spring reminded me of the days before COVID, when we were allowed to hang out in the swimming pool and have a good time without being scared of each other. And the scene in which Ben and Gwen went in on the food, how much do they eat? Like, this isn't even picnic food, this is a whole dang feast. Like, even if Ryan, Simon, Max, and Maxine got to eat, I still think they'd be too full to play around in the spring after the meal. The fact that Ben and Gwen ate all that alone in 40 seconds is both impressive and disgusting at the same time. They didn't exactly eat all of it, but they dang well ate most of it. I would have had a bad stomachache if I ate a quarter of what they ate at that same speed. And I'm not even 10. And Ryan thought that was fire? Yeah, man, the toilet's about to be on fire tomorrow, I know that for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if this entire time they ate, Ryan was recording and posting it to WorldStar or something. I can literally see this being a viral video. But anyway, let's get back to the action scenes. I like how Ben 10,000 showed Ben new ways to use his aliens too. When they went to the future, Ben 10,000 showed Ben how to use his aliens in different ways, and I kinda like how this happened. The fight scene with Ben, Madame President, and Ben 10,000 was my favorite fight in the movie. But where was Kevin? And where was Hex? And where was the rest of the US Army? I mean, we saw the US Army at the beginning of the movie with some laser shooting rifles and high-tech bodysuits. Where did they go? And why aren't the other countries assisting the United States in fighting the Zurge? Don't they care about the possible end of the world too? I'm just trying to look at this realistically. Anyway, the movie does show that Ben learned about and unlocked some new aliens before quitting the hero business. I also noticed that Ben didn't use Omni-Kicks or Omni-Knot suits at all, which was surprising to some people, but I didn't feel as if they were needed, except at the fight scene right before Ben and Ben 10,000 turned into Surge. Actually, now that I think about it, that would have been a good opportunity for Omni-Kick's Jet Ray to get some action. I mean, we only saw the guy for a few seconds in Ben 10 vs. the Universe. Give him some love. And the ending was pretty good too. Ben 10,000 became a hero again. But this was not needed. Did he have to shave all the way? Like, he could have washed his beard and gave it a little trim, but this just looks... I don't know. The clean shave doesn't do it for me. And I do like the fact that he put on his Ben 10 jacket, but it doesn't fit well with a striped shirt. He should have changed his shirt to a black shirt, like the Alien Force or Ultimate Alien shirt, if he was gonna wear the jacket. Or he could have just stayed the same with the striped shirt and washed it, I guess, so it wouldn't smell. Both of those options would have looked better than combining the two. I do like this movie a lot, but there are a few things that bother me. We are now 1/3 into Season 5, and we still don't have answers to so many questions. In fact, the movie raised even more questions. On top of the questions we had coming into the movie, we now also wonder how Kevin got stuck as Humongoraptor, where the Zurge had been while Ben quit heroing for 30 years, how Gwen became president, how the White House ended up in Bellwood when it used to be in Washington, D.C., when and how Ben's Omnitrix changed, why Azimuth let Ben keep the Omnitrix while he wasn't using it, whether Ben going to the future affected the past, whether Surge replaced an alien's pod, and if so, which one, and why. Just so many questions. I'm sure we'll get some questions about Kevin answered in one of the 2 remaining movies, but I just don't know if we'll get answers to the questions raised in this movie. Hopefully we will, because from the looks of it, Duncan won't be answering a lot of questions from now on, so we can't really rely on him to explain things to us that weren't explained in the movies anymore. Speaking of Duncan lied about Spider-Monkey not returning. He said Spider-Monkey wouldn't return, yet he did. I'm not sure why he lied. He could have simply avoided answering the question, as he does to hundreds of other questions. If he lied about this, it makes me wonder what else he lied about. So those are just some things I wanted to put out there. Now for the actual rating, I did actually enjoy the movie more than Ben 10 vs. the Universe. Not because the story was better, but because there were less spoilers. I mean, pretty much everything important in Ben 10 vs. the Universe was spoiled to me before I got to see it, except for Azimuth's trial for Ben in the Null Void. And these spoilers just made the movie predictable. I gave Ben 10 vs. the Universe an objective rating of 9 out of 10 in my last review. Now for Ben 10,010, nothing really got spoiled to me, so I was pretty much surprised by everything that happened in the movie, which is why I enjoyed it more than Ben 10 vs. the Universe. However, I don't think that makes this movie better than Ben 10 vs. the Universe. If I were to pretend I didn't get spoiled and looked at this from a viewpoint as objective as possible, I think Ben 10 vs. the Universe is superior to Ben 10,010. Mainly because there were less plot holes in Ben 10 vs. the Universe. The only thing about Ben 10 vs. the Universe that didn't really make sense was, why did they just ditch Kevin after Vilgax knocked him out?
I don't get it. This is where I saw him later. Well, if I know Kevin, he'll turn up sooner or later. Come on, Grandpa and Phil are waiting.
But in Ben 10,010, looking at it realistically, it does have a lot more plot holes. I do think the story for Ben 10,010 was very well written, and both present and future Ben, as well as President Tennyson, did develop as characters, and I would gladly say you should not miss this movie if you're a Ben 10 fan. I rate this movie an 8 out of 10, 1 point lower than Ben 10 vs. the Universe. It would have been better without the plot holes, and without raising so many questions that weren't answered. But I did enjoy this movie in its entirety, and I am curious to see how you guys felt about the movie if you did see it. Did you like it? Have you even seen it yet? What rating would you give it? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget that Jesus is strength. God bless.